The first king in history isn't a single person. It's a mess. And that's exactly the problem. Every textbook, every museum plaque, every stoned dorm room debate wants a clean answer. One name, one date, one crown. But history doesn't work that way. There are at least 3 serious contenders for the title, and every single one of them is wrong in a different way. So let's start at the beginning. Sort of. In the British Museum sits the Narmer Palette, a 5,000-year-old slab of carved siltstone showing a giant man holding a mace over a kneeling enemy. Narmer wears the crown of Upper Egypt on one side and the crown of Lower Egypt on the other. For decades, this guy got the gold as the first king, the unifier of Egypt, the first pharaoh. Except he wasn't first. Hieroglyphs for king appear on artifacts 100 years older. And before Narmer, there were Scorpion King and others whose names are half-legible scratches on pottery. Egypt's first king isn't Narmer. We just don't know the guy's actual name. So we move east to the flat plains of Mesopotamia, where a clay prism called the Sumerian king list claims to have the real answer. It starts with 24 lines of cuneiform that read, in effect, when kingship first descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. The first king on that list? A guy named Alulim, who supposedly ruled for 28,800 years. That's not a typo. 28,800 years. He's followed by Alulgar, who managed 36,000. Then we get to mythical flood stories, and suddenly kings start ruling for hundreds, then decades. The list is propaganda, a later dynasty trying to weave themselves into a cosmic timeline. But at its core, there's a kernel of real history. About halfway through the list after the flood, we meet a name that archaeologists actually confirmed. Enmebaragesi of Kish, who ruled sometime around 2600 BCE. He's the earliest king we can prove existed. His name appears on an alabaster vase fragment and on a weapon inscription. So if you demand a name and a real date, Enmebaragesi is your guy. But wait, there's an earlier name on the same list, a king called Dumuzid the Fisherman, who theoretically predates Enmebaragesi, but we have 0 evidence for him. And before any of them, around 3400 BCE in southern Mesopotamia, there were city-states run by councils or head priests who basically acted as kings. They just didn't use the word. Because that's the real mess. King is a word we made up, and the past didn't come with name tags. The first person to hold the actual title in a surviving inscription? Probably one of those Sumerian Lugals, meaning big man, around 2800 BCE. But the first person to exercise what we'd call kingship, absolute power over a state, divine authority, military command? That's Scorpion King, maybe. Or Narmer, or some anonymous man who got a mace head with his name not quite preserved. The closest we can come to a solid first king depends entirely on what you think a king is. If it's the earliest named ruler with real evidence, it's Enmebaragesi. If it's the earliest to wear a crown and unite a nation, it's Narmer. If it's the first to claim direct rule from a god, that might be someone in Sumer, centuries before either of them. And if you count the mythical ones, Alulim wins by a ridiculous margin, almost 29,000 years. So the answer is a mess. A beautiful, frustrating mess, because human civilization didn't start with a single ancestor wearing a crown. It started with 100 experiments in power, and we happened to put a label on one of them. History was never as neat as the textbooks pretend. So who was the first king? Honestly, you tell me. Drop your theory below, and subscribe for more stories that don't fit on a plaque.